Some conversations will be mind-blowing and you'll sit there and you'll have the most profound change.
Hello!
Hello, my lovely.
How are you?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm sitting here looking out the window. Went through a panic, did I have my phone off, but looking out the window trying to manifest, you know, good weather and let the sun come and be.
I'm gonna wish you luck with that.
But then, you know what? I think I may have manifested this weather because I always say when we get a bad May, we get a great summer.
There you go.
Yeah, so like we've had really spectacular Mays for a couple of years, like as in everybody's in their shorts, t-shirts and hitting the beach and eating ice cream. And then disastrous July and August, just piddling rain. So when we get a bad May, we get a good summer. That's my theory. I have no factual basis of that. I'm just sticking to it though.
She said. Right, we're going to start with jolliness.
Okay, you get started.
Right, so
bring it.
Woo, woo. Hey, Karen, 52 Conversations. Great to have you here because I know we're going to have a blast. How are you?
I am fantastic and thank you so much for having me here. And yes, we always have a blast. It's just not possible for us not to.
I was going to say it's the only way to go. So as a quick sort of what I call the quick hair version of you, for people that are tuning in that don't know anything about you, before we get lost in tales of mystery, intrigue and adventures, maybe you want to sort of tell people who you are.
Who am I and what do I do in this world? Okay, so my name is Karen Molan. I live in Cashel in Tipperary in Ireland, and I am lots of things, but for a living what I do is, because we don't define ourselves, and we start. So I'm a neurolinguistic programming practitioner and trainer. I incorporate Adlerian psychology into my practice. I bring in things like TFT, which I learned from you, and a couple of other modalities that I picked up along the way, so that I help clients get out of their own bloody way and stop lying to themselves. That's the big thing, right? If you want to lie to the world, fine, but please don't lie to yourself. Like, at least be honest with yourself. And to change what they believe about themselves if it's negative so they become more positive. And that I do every day. That's my job every day. And I freaking love it. I mean, I don't ever consider, I'm trying not to swear too much on this.
You can swear, it's allowed.
Okay, yeah, it could get bad though. But like, I wake up every morning and go, yes, over clients today, yes, you know, or yes, I'm delivering the course today, yes, you know, and it's pleasure. It's not what most people would say, oh, work, you know. Yeah. So it's what I do, and I love what I do. I embody it, I think.
She embodies it. I can vouch for that. So before we started recording proper, we were having this conversation and I was going, what year was it we met? And maybe I can't remember the year because of where we met. Do you think that might be the reason that
might be the reason?
Most important thing was we took this friendship from where we met, but the year seems irrelevant.
Relevant. It's a long time. I know that.
Yeah, it's a long time.
I want to say it's 12 or 13 years, but again, I'm not 100% sure. We need to talk to somebody else about that. But where we met, I will always remember where we met.
Go on, then you tell the story of where and how.
So it was in Florida. We were on a training together, doing DHE training, and we hadn't met. We didn't know each other. And I actually had gone to this training and I didn't know a soul at it. Me too. And I found myself sitting in a corridor on a very lovely, comfortable chair, looking at a map of where the hotel was in relation to Universal Studios or a shopping mall, because I was trying to plan what I would do in my downtime.
Yeah.
And one of the facilitators of the course, the lovely Mr. John Laval, passed by, saw me sitting there all on my own, and went, "Are you okay?" I went, yeah, I'm just getting my bearings. And he kept going. And when he passed back, I was still sitting there, and he went, "Are you sure you're okay?" And yeah, I'm just getting my bearings. And I have to say, I was a little bit like, could you go? I really appreciate you. You're a great man. I love your trainings. Go away now, please. I'm trying to focus. And next thing, Janice appeared. just appeared. You know, I'm pretty sure John Laval sent you down the corridor, said, there's a woman down there in her room, go check that she's okay. And you came down and said, hey, what are you doing? And I said, I'm looking at this map to get my bearings. He said, no, stop doing that immediately. Come with me and meet people. And I was like, oh, okay. And it was how you said it, you know, it was fun, it was welcoming, it was inviting, it was all those things. It was like straight away I knew, here's somebody that I'm going to have a laugh.
And it wasn't actually by design, it was just me being there. I was there and I was on my own as well. So maybe, and it's really interesting because if I listen to that story, I'm like, wow, did I really do that? And that's so not me, because I'm actually an introvert extrovert. Yeah. People never believe that about me, but that is the goddamn truth.
Well, that is who I am too. Yeah. I tell people, well, actually, I'm kind of 50-50 introvert, extrovert. And they go, no, you're not. And I go, no, yeah, I am. But I think what happened was, it was like, you know, you just meet somebody and you go, this is a kindred soul. Yeah. This is somebody who, the energies kind of just went, bang, bring these two together. And we laugh. Oh my God. When I was thinking about that training the other day, and the things that we got up to,
we were a bit naughty.
That we convinced people to do.
I think we were definitely a little bit naughty and a little bit cheeky, weren't we? A little bit.
We're so polite in English. We were brazen, is what we were.
I have an image in my mind of me and you, and was his name Jason? Sat between
Jason, yes, the lovely Jason,
yeah, the lovely Jason sat getting bewitched basically by two witches.
I have a picture. Somebody took a picture of us doing that, and they sent me the picture. Yeah. I think that's brilliant.
Because we could build a story around that, because really, literally, from the moment that we met, it was like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah,
and it kind of started this thing, and we did. Famously at the party, which we shouldn't have too much, or maybe we should. We had such a good time, didn't we? And everybody
oh my God. Well, everybody had a good time. Like, it wasn't just us. We shared the laughter.
We had an extra better time for sure.
We did.
We had people looking at us going,
But the fact that we were able to convince some of the people there that what we said was true.
Oh yeah.
And like that to me was just the best ever. You know.
Yeah. So for anyone that's listening that has no clue what we're talking about, you use the words DHE, design human engineering.
Yeah, it's a mouthful, isn't it? Yeah.
It is a mouthful. You know, for people that don't necessarily know anything about NLP, then obviously, as far as we're probably both concerned, we went and sat with the right people to get some really good juice from, for want of better words, that we've been kind of working on and using and evolving in our own ways. And I think that's a really interesting place for our conversation to maybe go, because I don't know if you're like me, that when you went there, you didn't necessarily know exactly what you were going for. You're just going there, right? You're just going there.
I read an article that said, this is the next level of NLP. And I thought, okay, I should do that. And then I went. And that was it.
I often wondered if there was something in that thing where, you know, we've just been like embedded with, you know, you're going to have to keep rotating via this special place and hang out with Richard and John and Kathleen and those. And maybe that's true, and that's okay.
And how bad is that? Like,
absolutely, yeah. Okay, then I can do that. But it's really interesting, isn't it, when you kind of look. So that's where we met, and the things and the paths that we've travelled, and how you become your own version of you, I guess.
Yeah.
So if you were going to try and explain how you think you've evolved into this version of you.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I mean, where would, because you know, the thing is, I'll give a bit of my story, I suppose, really quickly. As far as I'm concerned, I didn't realise for a very, very long time, and not even really clearly until maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but the reason I do what I do is because of my mum.
Yeah.
And because of stuff that went on in my life that has shaped my life. Because I don't know, I'm sure you've had the same. A lot of people that end up doing what we do, they've got a story as to why they do that thing. They've had some particular drama or some catastrophic thing. Now, there was a bit of drama in my childhood growing up. I don't view it as anything massive or anything, but it came to me really clearly. This is for my mum that I do this. And, you know, ever grateful to mum that that's what I do. So whatever the little blip was, it doesn't really matter. So is there anything that particularly happened to you walking your life, your journey, that led you to the space where you were like, yeah, I'm going to learn this NLP stuff to start with? Because I guess that's where the story not starts from, because whatever happened before brought you there, but then what happened?
It evolves from there. Yeah, it evolves. It definitely evolves from the very first NLP practitioner training I did. I mean, I read books and I got an inkling, and I had done some techniques from the books, and I had a fair understanding, and I went to a weekend workshop and I had an idea, and then I did a week-long workshop and had an idea, and then I did the practitioner training, and that kind of changed everything.
But you weren't working in this field, right? You came.
No, I wasn't. I was completely... No. Okay, so when I left school, I trained as an accountant.
Yeah. And imagine you, my mind goes, what a fucking waste. Why would she be working with numbers when she could be working with our brains?
But I didn't really work with numbers. I worked with people.
Yeah.
And my favorite job always was to go and do what we would be called incomplete records. So you would go to a sole trader's, like my favorite one was this little shop that I used to go to, and he had all his receipts in plastic bags. And they weren't in date order, and it was like putting together a jigsaw. I always say it's like putting together jigsaws. People are jigsaws. You put them together, you know, and you help people to put their own jigsaw together. And it was like that. I was putting all his pieces together for him while I was talking and chatting with him, and he would give me star bars, and he was a very nice man. And I used to love doing his accounts. And then you'd go into big corporations to do the accounts, and like their accounts were, like, not being rude about it, but bloody boring, because everything was printouts. Like they were like a mass. And this is back in the day now when they were the big, like that's your size of printout. Like there wasn't an Excel spreadsheet. But what I found I was doing in those companies, when I look back now, I didn't realize it at the time, but when I look back, is I would go around and I would talk to everybody. I would get to know their stories, and I would gather information. And I, like, you know, I wasn't really there to kind of, thank God I don't work in that firm anymore, because if they ever saw this, they would probably say she's fired. But it was
she can't say anymore. Yeah. She talks.
Yeah. She doesn't add figures anymore. So then there was a period in my life then, which was a real turning point, is when I got sick. And for 4 years, I was really, really ill, and unusually ill.
Yeah.
I had these ovarian cysts, which would fill and rupture and bleed internally, and they lovingly called them chocolate cysts, which I thought was, given my love of chocolate, was quite appropriate.
It's something so bad, such a bad name.
Yeah, I know. There was all kinds of other things going on. There was adhesions, there was all sorts of stuff happening, and it resulted in massive surgeries for over 4 years, 4 major surgeries, 6 minor procedures. Wow. And I really did have to kind of step back and kind of go, what am I living for?
Yeah.
Like I like Tim and with Kate and with all of those things, like we were amazingly, like I was very blessed in my life, and I'm very appreciative and always am of them. And to me, that's just a given that they're there, and that the appreciation is there, and the love is there, the support is there. Like I'm very lucky in that respect. But at the same time, I was thinking, well, like, do you want to go back in and do accounts? When this is over, like, is this what this journey is about? And I found a book by the lovely Dr. Siegel, Love, Medicine and Other Drugs, and I read that book and thought, yeah, there's got to be more to life than this.
There's more than this.
And that was the start. That was like the book that started a journey. Like there's been a number of books in my life that I've read that have really had a profound effect on me, and that was one of them, definitely. So I trained as a counselor. I did all that counseling training stuff and decided, no, I don't like that.
Yes, that's not for me.
No, you have to sit and listen to people, and they, like, don't get me wrong, I love counseling. I love going. I love it's a space for me to go and vent in. But to be the person who sits there and listen to somebody like me vent, no. So I decided that wasn't exactly the career move for me. And then we had a couple of house moves, which kind of took me out of the space of working, and I was at home with our daughter and set up a couple of businesses, ran them, you know, just kind of always doing something, but never quite finding my purpose, right? You know, and you have to always go back to what's your reason why. What is your why for doing what you do? And I know that's so cliched in the industry, but it's true. When you ask the question in a very genuine and real way, it's true. So then we discovered that our daughter was dyslexic, and I said, right, well then what do we need to do for her so that she's happy and content in school?
Yeah.
And so I found a person who was specializing in that, but it was an awful long journey. Like, it was an hour and 15 minutes for an hour lesson and an hour and 15 minutes home. I thought, screw this. So I trained, and I learned how to do it. And I always loved that there was a method that you could teach children so that they could grasp what was being taught in school, or they could see solutions to things that were being taught in school, so they could learn. And I don't like the expression learning differently. I like that they have a unique method of learning, right? Because each of us has a unique method of learning. Yeah, no, there's nothing different. We're supposed to be different. Yeah. So then I just couldn't, there was still this thing that the kids were missing the confidence.
Yeah.
I thought, there's something I'm missing. I'm missing something. And so I set an intention that I will go and find the thing that I can learn so that I can help these kids
on a crusade. I see you with a flag and find the thing.
Yeah, I didn't have to search long, actually, because I got a letter that day in the post that taught me about NLP. By the way, there's a group that I'm very involved with, the Adlerian Network of Ireland, which is a psychology group. And they were saying, hi, Colin Brett, one of the trainers, is coming and he's teaching NLP. Would you be interested? And I read the book, the little bump, the booklet, the thing that came, brochure that came with it. And I remember ringing the woman I work for saying, I'm doing this training. Here's what we're going to get from it. And she said, okay, I'm going to pay for you to do it. Cool. So I was like, cool.
Yes,
even better. Turned up, and on the very first day of that training, I knew I was in the right place. But then something rather remarkable happened. Because I was asking all these questions about, so if I'm working with a child with dyslexia who's got this kind of confidence issue, should I be doing? And the trainer just took me aside, set me down, beautiful man, Colin, and said, Karen, how about you just do this course for yourself?
Yeah.
And then do it for the kids. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was it. That was all on the first day of the practitioner training. And it just changed everything. Suddenly I could see where my resilience came from. I could see where my strength, where my drive and passion comes from. The crusades, put a challenge in front of me and I will rise to the challenge.
And she's like, yes, let me.
And then I also got to learn how that can be detrimental to me. Because I don't actually have to take on every challenge that you put in front of me.
No.
I don't have to fight every fight, and I don't have
to. How long did it take you to learn that particular, as an interlude? How long to learn that, or are we?
I'm still learning it, but you know,
learning, right?
I think I'm more discerning about the challenges that I take on now, and then, but what was really interesting for me was I started taking what I had learned and using it in my own life, which was the start of my growth, we'll say, which. You know, it's wrong to say it was the start of it, but it was certainly the path that I chose that brought me to where I am today. Okay, because the growth probably had started in the years before. But this was a definite, I'd reached a junction.
Yeah.
And I had to pick a direction. You're either going to go left, you're going to go right, or you're going to go back. What are you going to do? And I thought, not going left, not going right, not going back, I'm going forward. I'm going to go that way. And that was definitely a turning point for me. And then as I worked with the children and their confidence grew, and I mean, I had some amazing times with those kids.
I'm sure.
What I realized is actually their parents.
They must have loved you and your character. Do you know what I mean? Because that would just be like fresh air especially in a system where fresh air isn't really allowed. Let's be honest. It's not allowed. My
favorite thing was to teach them how to spell the word diarrhea.
Okay.
So they could spell it forward, backwards, pick out the middle three letters. So then they'd go into school and go, Miss, I can spell diarrhea. And they'd go, no, you can't. You go, yeah. D-I-A-R-E-A. They'd rattle it off. And the kids would be like, yeah, go me. Because you could teach them to spell the word beautiful, but like, you know, there's no fun in that.
No, absolutely.
So I liked to encourage their adventurism with themselves. You know what I mean? That they were willing to explore what they could do with their own minds. And stretch themselves a little bit. And we had some great fun and some amazing amazing like events happened. Like one girl, she's so talented musically. She went to play a flute for us, and it was the old style wooden flute. It's a really difficult one to play. And the parents started to come in to collect the kids, and so she lost her nerve. And I remember just going over to her and whispering to her, "Are you in your circle? Like, get into your circle of excellence." And she stood in her circle and she just played. Like, she just played. And she was looking at me like, and I was like, "I know." And so what happened then was, it was the parents were coming to me saying, "How can we do this?"
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, like, my kid is suddenly really like confident and happy, and they were still in the worried state of minding them.
Yeah.
And so then I began to work with the parents as well, and then the business grew out of that, and then counselors started that I know referred people to me, and it just grew. And as the business grew, I grew.
Yeah.
And the change that came in me then became very profound, because it was at that point I went, okay, now I know why I'm on this planet.
Yeah.
Now I know for certain.
For sure.
Like, it was kind of like you had an idea, you were sort of on the right track, and the training was great, you're back and doing the master practitioner, yeah. And then suddenly, like, it was one day you wake up and you go, oh yeah, clients today. And then you go, oh right, this is what I'm meant to be doing.
Yeah. Because then you know unequivocally, this is the thing.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
And it has been the thing ever since. You know, and there's no, like, what I've learned, like, I'm a perpetual student. I'm constantly learning new things and listening to people and hearing how people do things differently. And just choosing, I like that. I'm going to take that into my practice. I'm not sure about you, so go over there, you to that corner, and do your thing over there, and I'll just let you off. But I like to learn new things. I like to bring it in, and everything I do on me first. You know, so I'm kind of getting the benefit first.
Yeah.
So now when I turn up to training, it's entirely for me.
Yeah.
And then I bring it into my practice.
Yeah. Because I think the thing is, you, like me, we learn to be discerning, right? And if it feels right, then you gravitate to it. And if you're not sure, then exactly as you say, it's not that you have to diss that or say, la, 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 la. You just have to go, no, that's not for me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a real learning point in feeling so comfortable with yourselves that you can actually say, no, that's not for me and I don't need that. Yeah. And especially living in the world that we live in, where, oh my God, talk about a pandemic of things through COVID. You know, you can be a coach this, a coach that, a certificate for this, and it can cost you $7, and you can do out. And then I
got my Groupon coaching certificate.
Absolutely. And then on the other side of that, you know, there's some amazing stuff that's coming out. So in terms, I mean, because if I think about us in that way, it seems like a long time ago that we started the journey in some ways. And then in another way, it's like 2 minutes ago, right?
It's like yesterday, yeah. It was yesterday.
How much knowledge has come in and out? How much have we learned? How much have we let go of, changed, and thought, yeah, equally, isn't that exactly what we're supposed to be doing? This whole evolving day by day.
Yeah. I think we are we're like onions, right? We're layers.
Yeah.
So we have that outer shell that is flimsy, you know, like the onion has that brown skin, and it gets peeled off first of all, and then you get to see the onion. But as you take away the layers and learn about yourself, and you learn about yourself through your life experiences, through loss, through gain, like everything that we experience is a learning in one form or another. It's like you're able to peel back another layer of your onion to get to the core of who you are. And when you get there, then people often think, well, now I know myself. I've on my personal journey and I'm here. And that's when you realize, well, actually there's another onion beneath that onion. You know, there's another series of layers that you need to start peeling back. So I think to say that I'm very confident in who I am, and I'm very happy in who I am. Like I am, if you ask me what's the main emotion that I would be feeling, like I'm happy all the time. My main state is happiness, you know. And yeah, stuff happens, like bills still come through the door, you know, people still die, you still have loss, you still have migraine headaches every now and then, you know. But it's like, if you ask me what's my main state that I live in, it's one of happiness, because I know myself. Right. So I'm content with this.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow that could derail that entire process. But what I do know is that how much of myself I know right now, and how secure I am within myself, that whatever happens, I'll handle it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it might change my life, but it'll be changed.
But for everyone that's listening, I think that's a real, for me, it's one of those freedom places when you get to that space where you know 100%, yeah, shit's going to happen. It's always going to happen. Yeah, I'm going to do the thing that I do best, which is living in this space in here and outside of me, and the people that are in my life that have created that ease, so that actually if I want to feel real shit for 5 minutes, probably will be 5 minutes, and that's okay. And if I decide actually to do a whole 24 hours of it at some point, that's okay, because I know. And I don't know if you do this. I do this with my clients all the time, and I just say to them, put a time frame on how long you're going to feel fucked up for, or how long you want to feel sad for, because actually if you just let it run, if your brain's running in the wrong direction, you can give me a call in 4 months' time and say, oh, I still feel really bad. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that thing that happened that really is done and dusted. And it's kind of an interesting way. And sometimes I have to do that talk to myself. I have to say, oh, come on, Janice. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't need to feel like that for longer. It's okay.
I tend to give people around me fair warning.
Right.
I'm going to be miserable for the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
And if I'm feeling sick, I'm going to be whiny, and you will hear my daughter go, oh, Jesus. And she has to leave the house. Like, she's like, I've got to go to work. You know, I'm not going to be around for this.
My mum be like that.
Friends know me well enough at this point that if I go, I'm not feeling so well, they go, yeah, okay, go to bed. Stay there for 24 hours. And I do this with my clients as well. If they're in the life is hard, everybody's mean, everybody's against me, and they're in the feeling sorry for themselves state, I say, right, I need you to wallow for 24 hours.
Yeah.
But then I tell them how I want them to wallow.
Yeah.
Because by the time they're telling me that, they've already wallowed enough.
Yeah. So here's a different way of doing it.
Yeah, when you get up in the morning, you got to sit in front of the mirror and go, my life is miserable. It's very hard. No one understands the frustration and pain that I'm going through. And you have to do that for 4 hours. Then you get a break, and you get to have some lunch, and then make sure you eat a good healthy lunch, lots of green veg, because you need the energy. And then you come back and you sit in front of the mirror and you go, it's worse than it was this morning. Worse. And you do that for 24 hours. And I have had nobody who can last past the first 10 minutes, because they usually end up doing exactly what you're doing, which is laughing. And when you're laughing, you can't wallow. Right.
Absolutely.
Because when people come to us, by the time they've reached us and said, hey, like, well, okay, if they're existing clients, they know better. They come immediately. But if they're new clients, they come to go, yeah, well, my life's been pretty bad, like, for the last 6 months and everything. I'm going, right, they've wallowed enough. You know, they've been stuck in this enough, and they've been beating themselves up enough. It's time to stop. And it's time to start doing something else that's more productive and useful and allows them to be who they're meant to be.
Yeah, I love that phrase that you use, because I use it often enough myself. By the time they come to us, isn't it bizarre that we're still using that phrase in some ways?
Yeah, that people are still reluctant to go and get the help they need, because oftentimes I think people worry that if they can't do it themselves, there's something wrong with them. And like I really do like emphasize to clients that it's those who are successful usually have a coach in their back pocket, you know, absolutely, who will call them on their bullshit, who will encourage the living daylights out of them, who will make sure their motivation strategy is in place, and who will hold them accountable to what they say they're going to do, you know. And it just frustrates me that there's still people out there who are struggling when, you know, come along and see us and like you'll be done in no time.
Absolutely. Or you know, I know you do this as well. We work for a long time with a client because they've got very specific life-changing learnings, whatever you want to call them, and they go on a big journey. And for me, those are the best ones. They're the ones that I really love nowadays, I have to say, where you literally see this catalyst of change, and then maybe selfishly I enjoy that, because it's like, oh my god, this feels so good, because you're watching, but it's almost like watching your own experience of having had that ourselves in a way, right?
It's like,
it feels like when I'm saying it, it's like the reminder I was there, and I've come this far on my journey. So actually walking that with you and watching you explore and understand and grow, it's just like, oh yeah, it's like getting a hit of something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like you get to relive it all over again in a good way, you know, without the torment, without the trauma, without anything.
Without
we get
the
to
pain.
go, yeah, hey, look, I remember I went through that too. Yeah, that's amazing. Now here's how you get out of it. And it's interesting what you're saying, because I look at the clients that I've had who are with me a long time, right? And there's a couple of reasons why they keep me around. One is, it's the accountability factor.
Absolutely.
They absolutely love that, because as humans, it is in our nature almost to procrastinate at times, or to get self-doubt, or to wander off the chosen path, right? So having somebody go, excuse me, where are you going? it does help.
Going now.
Right? Yeah. And as one lovely man that I worked with said, it's like having you in my back pocket going, excuse me, where are we going? What are we doing today?
Yeah.
And he says, you're very polite, he says, when you're in my back pocket. You're not so polite when you're in front of me. It's like, what the fuck? So then the others who come, though, and stay a long time are people who are on their own journey of exploration, and who want to learn what those layers of that onion are and how to take them back. And I love, because it's like you get to see this person just emerge and blossom in front of you. And I love when they come on the call and they're just sitting there smiling, going, guess what? And you're like, tell me all, you know. And they're like, oh my god, this week such and such, blah blah blah. And I caught myself doing it, and I went, no, not doing that. And they're like, I'm so proud of myself. I'm like I always say to my clients, I'm like a proud mammy, you know.
It's like being a mum, isn't it? As you watch them, nurture them, and then you see them take flight, and you're like, yes.
And then they take off, and you mightn't see them for a couple of months, and then they'll come back and they'll go, okay, so this is what I've realized now. Let's work on this, you know. And I love that as well, that they're constantly on this journey of realization that, you know, we're never done. There's always something else that we can learn about ourselves, or about the world we live in, or how we interact. You know, I think how we interact with people is truly an unlearnable subject, because everybody is so unique.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is so different, and everybody comes with their own story. So how our energies bounce off each other and how we meet those people is that there's always a lesson for us in it, you know.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I was just thinking then, so we caught up last week and we haven't caught up for a while, and I'd sort of done my, I'm really sorry because I
for God's sake.
And then I think, that's such bullshit, because friendships and relationships, situationships, people ships like us, when you meet your tribe, it doesn't matter.
No.
And I think that's something that hopefully people are increasingly start to realize and recognize, and that actually kind of just collecting people for the sake of collecting people for no reason is just not worth your energy, because we can find ourselves getting sucked into stuff that's not our business.
Yeah, the dramas.
Doesn't feel anything in us, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a massive thing for people to relearn, actually, as they go back into workspaces right now, because I mean, there's this massive shift. I mean, one of my friends has just, you know, everyone's back in the office, and she's I was speaking to her briefly this morning, and everyone's ill, and I said, yeah, because you're all back in fucking kindergarten, aren't you?
Yeah.
And she's oh my god, it's exactly that. And it's not that we're just ill with bugs and bloody viruses. She said there's so much bullshit. And I said, yeah, but that's going to happen, isn't it? Because everybody's been kind of ostracized from themselves, right? They've been out doing, and all of a sudden some of these offices are going back, and all of this stuff is kicking off. What's your thoughts on that? It's
something I'm seeing a huge amount of at the moment with clients who've had to who've been told, right, come back to the office, and they don't want to.
Yeah.
And I had one lovely client say to me, Karen, if I go back in there, it's just going to be drama fest again.
Yeah.
It's going to be the cliques, you know? And I said, well, you have a choice. Don't get into them.
Yeah.
You know, like you always have the choice.
That's the thing.
Yeah. So I think for me, when we all went into this lockdown that we went into, whenever in March 2020 was for us here, it was like we suddenly became a very isolationist society, right? Up to this, the push had been connect, make friends, like social media, blah, blah, blah. And even with social media, we became very isolationist, and people were being very honest at many times and showing real life on social media as opposed to my perfect life, you know, it's Instagram, perfect photograph. They were showing like, oh my God, I'm sitting here and there's like empty crisp packets around them. And, you know, all they're doing is watching Netflix. And it's like, yeah, I have no motivation to bake bread, learn Spanish, or even go for a walk, you know. Yeah. And I was like, why do you have to bake bread and learn Spanish and go for a walk? Like, you know, do what makes you happy and what keeps you healthy.
Yeah.
And that's always been my thing. Now people have gotten used to themselves, and a lot of people have started looking at their lives going, why am I here? What is my purpose? Is it to be in an office, entering data into a computer and producing something at the other end for somebody else? Or, you know, what is the job that I have? And that particular person works in a really like large multinational corporation. And she was saying, I'm going to be going back into an office environment where I don't actually make anything.
Right.
And I said, but tell me what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
You know, like, because it's always their meaning that they're putting on it. I said, there's nothing profound coming out of my job. It's not making a difference in the world. I'm not helping anyone.
Okay.
And so we took that and we extrapolated out all the things that we do. But it made me think about how people are responding now to the world that we live in with these changes, and people want more meaning in their life. And people have put huge amount of meaning into the relationships they have in their lives. So you have that whole thing of the grandparents not being able to hug their grandkids and being isolated, and the loneliness, especially when they're on their own, of that. And then you have people whose families are together all the time and they're going to kill each other. You know. But the other side of that is that people have had an opportunity during COVID, and I'm always looking for what's the upside to everything, but there has been an opportunity in COVID for people to actually learn about themselves and learn about what it is that they believe about themselves and what they value about themselves and the world they live in. So the word pivot is a word I love and hate at the same time, because if I hear one more time that you have to pivot your business, all the marketing gurus are out there telling everybody to pivot. But it is, I turned it into just turn around and look at things differently, do a reframe on it, basically, which is the ultimate pivot.
And I think if we, sorry to interrupt you, if we actually, all of us got issued something from our governments, we'd love you to assess the stuff that you've learned about yourself and what's valuable to you over the last 18 months. Wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be amazing.
If everybody, and of course I'm taking the piss, the government's never going to do that. Yet maybe people that are listening to us have this conversation, they'll grab a piece of paper and say, you know, what have I learned? Because every single person that I've spoken to, and I bet it's the same for you, they can all find really good stuff that they've learned about themselves that actually is valuable. It's just that there's this underlying fear, separation, blah, blah, that's running. And that's the loudest noise, as always. So that they're looking, what have I lost? What have I lost? What haven't I had? What haven't I had? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, fear will always be louder than hope. You know, it's just its nature. Like it's easier to resonate with a fear than it is to buy into a hope and commit to it. I mean, I can tell you sitting right here, I've missed the beach, you know? Did my world come to an end because I didn't get to a beach 4 times in a year? No. You know, did I do other things? Did I discover a new love for my garden? Yes. Did I discover something else? Yes. I took a walk recently. They opened up a new walk in our town. It's amazing, 8 kilometer loop. And I took a walk and I took photographs as I went along to remind myself that look at where you live. This is amazing. You don't need, you have it right on your doorstep. And I think what you've said has just sparked an idea in me. It would be great to set up a project to say, kind of like, I don't know what we'd call it, but it's choosing whether I want this challenge or not. But I would love if somebody set up even like a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page or some sort of thing that said, this is the page where you come and say what was great about COVID. Like, 'cause there was lots of really horrible things and people lost loved ones, people have suffered. I mean, I don't know what your health system is in England, but over here, like all treatments were nearly suspended.
Yeah.
And so people have genuinely suffered huge losses and hurt.
Well,
but there's also been huge learning and growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of the dads that I was talking with, especially who were working from home, huge appreciation for the childcare workers.
Yeah.
That was the first thing. It's like, are you sure the creche isn't open? And then a different connection with their children, being in the space with them all the time and sharing the space with them all the time when they would normally be in the office. The mums, it was a different experience for the mums, because women, even though we are in 2021, it's still traditionally the women in the house who do most of the cooking, the cleaning and all that kind of stuff and the organizing of everything. As much as we've evolved, it still tends to fall that way sometimes. So their experience then, the women that I spoke with, their experience was slightly different in that they actually got to step back and got some rest. Because there was another adult in the house all the time to help out, you know. And then the single parents that I spoke to had a completely different experience where the connection with their children completely deepened because they had to be more reliant on each other for everyday stuff. You know, so I think even if we could hear those stories told, that would be just profound.
Before you even came up with your thing, maybe this is a project, I was already thinking, okay, for everyone that listens to this conversation of ours, we should ask them to just give us that information, right, so that we can collect it. Because we know 100% there's the sad stories.
Oh, yeah.
Yet from those sad stories, there's some amazing gifts, some great learnings, and exactly all the stuff that you had. And I just think, you know, because at the end of the day, what we're coming out of, hopefully, people are going to be talking about for years and years and years to come. Do you remember when? Do you know what I mean?
Do you remember the toilet paper shortage?
Absolutely. So actually, why don't we give them some real kick-ass, good, juicy stuff?
Yeah.
Actually, this is what I got from that experience, because, you know, that would be the stuff that will make you go, yeah, okay. So there was all this bad stuff and there was loss and there was pain and there was hope and there was learning and there was change. Because I think that's the thing that's really important now. We're at a point, I think, and we were talking about this last week where the humans can choose to change consciously and shift together and walk with each other. Should they choose? And
I hope they do.
Well, yeah, because damn, what will happen if they don't? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I think we've seen a taste of what happens when they don't.
Yeah.
Like we've had in 2019, 2020, 2021, right? In those 3 years, and I know we're still in 21, we've had exposure on a huge level to the polarized views of people.
Yes.
You know, you can go far left, far right, you can call it what you like.
Yeah.
But they're both sides of hate.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And I think it's the majority of people live in the middle.
Yeah.
Right. But it's the fear gets the publicity.
Yeah.
And of course it's sensationalist and it's media ratings and it's all of that. Yeah. You know, they can show people fighting on the streets and shooting one another or taking polar opposite opinions on things, but they don't show the people who are coming together to unite the communities and bring communities together and bring people together. And I also think that we've had this amazing thing happen in these years, whereby that sense of what is right and just, like justice, is really coming to the fore, and no longer tolerating people being classed as second-class citizens.
Yeah.
Like, for whatever reason, gender, colour, religion, whatever reason, it's no longer acceptable. And it's not going to, but not is it not acceptable, but it's not going to be tolerated. That people are actually vocal and speaking out and saying it. And it's not just the politicians or the world leaders, it is everybody on the street. And I think we have an opportunity here for people to say, this is the kind of society we want to create for our children to grow up in. This is the world we want to live in today. Not some fanciful thing in the future, but today.
Today, yeah.
And hold,
right?
Yeah, but hold ourselves accountable to actually do that.
Yeah.
Hold ourselves accountable to be more decent, to be more honest, to be more just. And do that and step forward like that. And I think that it's time. I think the people, the regular Joes of the world, and Joanna's, just to be fair,
Joes and Joanna's are listening.
The non-binaries, whatever, without causing offence to anyone, call yourself what you want, but the regular people of the world, I think, are the ones who are now saying, look, enough. We've had enough.
Yeah.
And it's now time.
It was really interesting this morning. I've been awake since like 4:37 or something. And I was like, okay, you don't need to get up. Yeah, it's 4:37. So I just started reading. And I was reading an article that came up on Facebook. And then I saw this advert that was sponsored by Ben and Jerry's, as in the ice cream. So it got my attention because it was Ben and Jerry's, but the picture underneath it didn't seem to resonate with something that should be going with an ice cream business effectively. And it was basically a petition to sign to get Priti Patel, and I don't really want to talk about politics per se, to stop and close detention centres in the way that they are literally the people that are managing to get into the UK, and they're literally locking them up and segregating, children, parents, whatever. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting for like Ben and Jerry's to be promoting that, sponsored by them. So I clicked through and I started reading, and I was like, okay, it seems kind of worthy. I like that. And then I started, as you do, more out of idle curiosity than anything, reading the comments from people below. And it was mind-blowing, because there were people that were saying this is a really good thing and I support this and I'm going to sign it. And then there was someone who sort of started saying, what on earth are an ice cream company getting involved in this for? And then they got that thing. And then my brain was kind of going, well, does it matter who starts the conversation? It's about what is the conversation about. And then it got really more interesting, because I kept reading. And there was some dude saying, oh, but Ben and Jerry's are now owned by Unilever. And do you know what they've done universally over the years and all the bad things? So then he wanted to drag up like all of their history. And it was really interesting, because there was this long debate between these two people. And I loved it because they were actually being really polite to each other. They didn't resort to throwing bricks at each other. It was a real debate. And basically, this guy was saying, I hear what you're saying about Unilever, and they're not perfect. However, Ben and Jerry's, which are now part of them, which apparently when they signed up to Unilever, they said, you have to make sure you do all of these good things, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, they're still doing their bit, right? They're still doing their bit. And if we all just stop and we do our bits, then all our bits together could equal some collective change, right?
Yeah.
So let's not get caught up in bullshit, where I was like reading, and some of these people, you're literally scratching your head. And then it kind of led into this, you're supposed to stop at the first safe country. And then there's a definition about what a safe country is. And my mind was just boggling, really, because I thought, fundamentally, at the end of the day, if you genuinely leave your country because you are in fear, literal, real fear, and you're with your children, your baby, your whatever, and you've left pretty much everything, then we should just be saying it's okay, come here for a bit and we'll see what we can do. Because isn't that what humankind is?
It's human. It's just human kindness. It's just
Yeah.
normal, natural caring for another human being who's in need.
But it's exactly as you said, we've got these people now who are so far left and right, and then unfortunately the collective in the middle, maybe we're just being a bit quiet still, and maybe we need to stretch our mouths, stretch our rights somehow. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, and I might find that conversation later and screenshot it, because the joy that I got from the fact that these people could agree to disagree and discuss, and finally at the end of it, because I did read it all, find common ground. I was like, it's not really that bloody difficult, is it?
It's called intelligence.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, you know, what happened? What has happened to intelligence? Do you know what I mean? Has it just become people are so focused on their own story that they can't see someone else's, or they don't want to for fear of what they think it will cost them? There's
that. I think there's also I think it goes back to even something more basic of just a lack of manners. You know, of being able to hear another human being's opinion, not have to agree with it, but not actually have to slate them because you don't agree with their opinion.
Yeah.
And you can, like, there are situations, and I can understand there's situations whereby somebody's opinion actually threatens your life.
Yeah.
Then no, you can't ignore that opinion. That's different, right? If somebody's turning up and they're wishing you bodily harm, then that's not okay.
Yeah.
Having a discussion like what you're describing about, well, Unilever did this and Ben and Jerry said they had to do that. I mean, that's an actual intelligent conversation where people can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But as you say, find some sort of common ground towards the end. I think the middle ground of society is overly polite.
Yeah.
We don't offend anyone. You know, it's like, like let's not cause offense, you know, and should just let them say what they need to say and then let them go on their way. And I think we are at a point where we have to say, well, actually, no, that you can't say stuff like that anymore. It's just not acceptable.
You have to question it, and you have to be able, I think, I say we all have to be able to ask ourselves and others difficult questions that actually the answers might make us feel fucking sad that we've made some decisions or we've acted in certain ways. We need to be able to ask those questions of ourselves and others, and be okay with hearing the answers and then saying, what can we do about that? How can we change that? How can we make this better?
Yeah, and each of us has to take responsibility for our actions. You know, each of us has to say, okay, so this is and not just our actions actually, but also take responsibility for our thoughts.
Yeah.
Because each of us has had at some point gone, all right, so I used to think that, you know.
Yeah.
Cool. That's not nice.
Yeah.
Does that mean I'm a horrible person? and learn. But it's to learn.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the journey, that learning, right? That thing right there that makes you. I mean, if I was having a conversation with my daughter the other day, I'm thinking, oh, should I say what I'm about to say? And it's probably safe to, because the people that I'm thinking about probably will never listen to this. You know, there's this thing about friends, fish, and family is foul after 5 days, right? We can't choose our families, and I'm pretty sure that every family that's going to listen to this, or person in their family, has that one person they're like, oh, like that.
Yeah, I understand.
And you know, and we play a game. So I've actually, as far as I'm concerned, I've become much more toned down than I used to be. So before, even 4 or 5 years ago, I had to say exactly what it was that I had to say, just because it needed to come out. And I've really learned that sometimes, you know, I kind of have to tone it down. I have to just not say that thing. I have to find a way to not be in a position where I could only be my truth by saying that thing. Do you know what? And it's learning. And maybe if we go back to the top of the conversation, maybe it's an age thing. Maybe we're older and wiser. I don't know. Older.
I'm sure it's a part of it.
Do you know what I mean? But it's so interesting because my daughter makes me look indirect.
Okay.
Brutal. She's absolutely brutal. Yet she's so quiet in so many ways compared to me. literally, she is a love or hate kind of person.
Mm.
And really,
I don't think it's that you need to tone down what you say. I think it's to find a way to say it so that the others can hear it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, so,
Yeah.
and I sometimes I think some things just aren't worth the volume of what would happen once you've said them, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I think if there's going to be volume when you say it, then it probably needs to be said. Yeah, I think this is what I mean about the middle ground. I think we've been too polite. Okay, I think there's conversations we haven't had. Like you have your extremes on both sides, and that's fine. They'll do their own thing. They're never going to change, I don't think, unless somebody intervenes to help them change. But you have the middle ground in society, and I think we've been silent and we've been biting our tongue for a long time and being very polite about how we say things because we don't want the volume. Yeah. We don't want the argument. But I think we need to start having those conversations. I really looking at it.
I really like the sound of that in terms of what we're talking about. That little interlude was kind of like very private, where I purposely toned myself down. Yet there's some other things that I'll just say, well, okay, this is absolutely what I think and believe. And that's okay. And it's for the bigger thing. I suppose I'm talking about toning it down in personal stuff just because you don't want the drama. But it's really interesting equally that some of our younger generations, and I'll use my daughter as an, she doesn't give a flying fuck whether you like her or not. Yeah. It's just, she just doesn't care. Yeah. Because she's not looking for dozens and hundreds of people to be her friend and have these things. And I see that a lot more in some of our younger generations, and I quite like that, I have to say. They're not just collecting friends for the sake of friends, and then we have the flip side. But I mean, I suspect
there is a big flip side.
And because I suspect your Kate is quite similar to my Nicola. The flip side of that is, you know, unless you've been validated by 20 million likes for that one shit photo, or your fake eyebrows, or your fake who knows, do you know what I mean?
We have a situation here where you're looking at, so you have the Nicholas, you have the Kates of the world, and they get on with their lives. And it's going to sound really obnoxious when I say this, but I'm going to say it, like, they got good training.
Absolutely, yeah, they got good learning.
And they learned at our expense. Our mistakes as well were probably the best learning they had. But at the same, and also, I'm going to say they were human as well. And there was a point in time in both their lives where, like, getting like people to like your photograph would have been a big thing. Obviously, they're older now and they're a bit more mature and that sort of stuff. But what I'm seeing and what I see in society and what worries me in society is that, and especially since the lockdowns and with this, because we've been all isolated, is that the level of importance people are putting on those likes. On the comments. And it's not just like, okay, you have the marketing industry that tells every coach that if you don't get like blah, blah, blah on your page, blah, 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 you get that nonsense, right? I can help you build a 6-figure income in blah, blah, blah. You know,
absolutely.
Nonsense stuff. Yeah. By just doing 3 Facebook ads and all that's like that. You get hit with that stuff continuously when you're in our business, right? And you know to ignore it most of the time. Like sometimes you get sucked in. You go down a rabbit hole, but then you come back out very quickly.
But sometimes you have to explore the rabbit hole, right?
Sometimes you do. Sometimes you just kind of go, what was it about their messaging that got me to click?
Yeah,
you know, I kind of want to know, how did they get me to click, you know? And then others, you see them and you just go, geez, and just walk away. So, but what's happening with a lot of younger children, like the teenagers that are out there at the moment, is a lot of it is the perception of what's on social media. And it used to be, here's a picture of me with my best face on, or my beautiful sports gear on, my amazing body, everybody like it. But now it's gone the other side. It's like, here's a picture I took of my friend and she's drunk and she's off her face and she's puking in the bushes. And it's like, it's gone a very negative slant, like, let me get 3,000 likes for this rather than me looking healthy, both of which are actually false in their own way.
Absolutely.
Because they're a snapshot of somebody either who put a huge amount of effort into how they look for this photograph and made sure that they sucked in their tummy for the had the right angle, versus somebody who went out and got off their head one night and ended up in the bush, which is not something they do every single day. That's not their life. But they're both held up. They're both false, but they're both being held up at the moment as being a standard of what we have to like.
Yeah.
And that worries me for the teenagers that are out there. I'm glad I'm not a teenager.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I really am.
I mean, it's strange. I mean, as you well know, and listeners don't necessarily know, my daughter's due to have a baby this Sunday. So maybe when this goes out, she'll have produced said baby. Who knows? And I'm kind of like, wow, what will the life of that child be like when they get to their teens, when they get to 20s? And I'm sure when we had our babies, we thought those thoughts, because it's inevitable, isn't it? As new human life comes.
I'm going to create a much better world for my child to live in, you know.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
And then you think, wow, what is it going to be like? And then it's also, you know, if my legacy was going to be anything, then what would that be? And yesterday I was helping Nicola in the garden, and all sorts of stuff, gardening, walking, different things. And then I find myself having been soaked wet through. My hair's literally all over the place. I've got mud on my face. I've got scratches. And I'm sat on the floor without my shoes and socks on in my daughter's back garden. And her husband comes out and he's like, "You look like a feral animal, Janet." And you know what? I kind of loved it. And I actually posted on Facebook, "Is it a good thing when your son-in-law says you look like a feral animal?" And I was like, yeah, because this is me being my truth. I don't give a fuck what I look like. I am happy as a feral woman could be, gardening and not caring. And you could have taken a photo of me. It wouldn't matter an ounce, because I was in my space and I was being me. Yeah. And I think that is such a huge important lesson for the younger generations need to learn. I think the generation behind us and the generation behind them, God, there's so many generations behind us. I know the generation.
How old am I actually? Wait a minute, am I still not 17?
We are ageless witches, are we not?
Well, we are too. That is true. Yes. And we're there. I know that. I think I'll probably go into my grave. Well, actually, I won't go into a grave. I'll be cremated. But I think I'll probably go up in flames. I expect when they cremate me that there's going to be like blue smoke or something comes out. I'll be very disappointed.
That sounds good.
But I do think that there's so many lessons that our generation, the generation behind us, and the generation behind them can share. Yeah. And I think that we have actually, I think our children and our children's children will have learned huge amounts from our experiences, because suddenly emotional intelligence is now a thing. You know, it used to be a thing when we were kids.
No, absolutely.
You were like overly sensitive, you know, or if
you're emotional, you were in trouble.
Yeah, there was something wrong, you know. Yeah. And then I think now there's an appreciation of that and of the soft skills, you know, and the use of them and how we use them to connect with people and have meaningful relationships with people. And I think definitely our children and the children's children will have learned that, which is a gift. That's a legacy gift, and that's an evolution of us as human beings. Yeah. That we're now reprioritizing things. Yes, of course, people still want like the amazing academic results in their exams. They still want to have amazing careers in life, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with going for that. Yeah. But it's not the be all and end all of life.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
So be a feral woman in your garden.
Yeah, I'll be feral as often as I bloody well can. I've just realized.
And the other thing, sorry, just on that as well. There's another thing that occurs to me, because you have your professional self and your personal self. And I draw very clear boundaries between the two. Yeah. And those who know me know I have my work wardrobe, that I wear. And it's literally, it's an anchor. And we can explain anchor some other day. But I put that on and suddenly I'm professional Karen. So it doesn't matter what's happening in my life. In this state right here, right now, I'm professional Karen.
This is what you need.
And then, and so I've had a situation where I've been working with a client for a number of weeks, and then I happened to meet them like it was actually on the beach, and I was out, and they were like, wow, you look so different. And I'm like, really? How? You know? And they go, I don't know. And it was kind of like a little bit more relaxed, maybe a little bit this, a little bit that. And it was like, okay. So when I turned up to the next session with them, I was, again, because it's how I work, it was professional Karen. And they were like, I'm glad you are who you are now, because I don't think I would have worked with her. Right. You know, and they were seeing a distinction between the two. Yeah. And I think a lot of people do this thing where they become their job.
Yeah.
And then that goes into their personal life. Or actually, it's just your job. You know, it's what you do to make money.
Yeah.
So that you can pay your bills and put a roof over your head and put food on the table. That you love it is fantastic. If you don't love it, then, you know, come, we'll help you change.
Do something else.
Yeah.
We'll find a way.
We'll help you. But it's not, and okay, the kind of work I do and the kind of life I live, they do run hand in hand. But it's not necessarily what defines me. There are other things in my life that define me and that give me greater purpose.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I think people need to, and as people are returning to the offices, a little bit sort of circling back to that, it's to remember who you became during the time away and hold on to keep what works, discard the rest, you know.
See, I love what you just said. And I was thinking, oh my God, we've been talking for over an hour and and we could go on. And maybe that's a beautiful way to end this conversation, because I know 100% we're coming back for more.
We'll have to come back.
Because I just think I was going to say, you know, were there some words of wisdom for anyone listening? And I think actually those were the really good way. Remember, basically, remember, and kind of go forward from that space. So underneath this conversation, I'm going to put all the links that people might want to find you and get to you. But if you want to share them now and tell the world where to find you, you can.
Ooh, how do you find me? Karen Molan on Facebook, Karen Molan on LinkedIn. There's a Women Unlocking the Secrets to Success Facebook group. It's a women only group. Sorry, guys. If you want to pop in there. You can find my course online, Succeed. I'll post links about it today, so you can find it on those pages. Cool. And you can just find me and book a call. There's links to book a call with me all over the place. Go find it, pick up the phone.
I'm going to encourage anyone, if you've enjoyed this conversation, pick up the phone and speak to Karen, find her out.
Speak to me. Yeah. Likewise, Janice.
Thanks for the amazing conversation, and thanks for the friendship across all the years and all the things that happened.
Love you to bits. Love you to bits.
Cool. Yeah. Big loves. Thank you so much.
Take care, darling. Bye.